and a half hour mark. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, is the NFL season, the preseason schedule starting to get to the where there's light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, with the Texans, of course, and Cowboys up next. Mickey, what have you been able to learn much at all about the Cowboys when you saw them at camp? And here we are as we're hoping to get to that first game as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think, David, one of the things that I think I've learned is how competitive this roster is. I mean, the offense seems to be somewhat set, assuming they have their health. And it looks like Dak should be ready to go, although he won't play a snap in preseason. Amari Cooper should get some snaps for the first time in a preseason game. We'll see what they do with the offensive linemen, the tight ends coming back from injuries. But that offense should be pretty good if everybody's healthy. The only concern, I think, would be is they won't take a snap altogether, meaning the starters, until September 9th against Tampa Bay. So we're going to find out if practice makes perfect, right? Because that's what they're going to have to rely on to get ready. Defensively, I think it's still a question mark. I think signs look good for the little bit they played in the first two preseason games. But again, so competitive, so many guys fighting for playing time that I think it's a good thing. And if we go back to maybe where we started, what we were talking about when they started training camp, it was how much better can this defense be? Now, it's got to be proven, but I think it has a chance. But we got to see it first before you believe it.
Mickey, the defense suffered a pretty big blow with losing Neville Gallimore for however long he's going to be out with that really nasty-looking arm injury he had the other day. What do you think they do to respond to that? Because defensive tackle is not the position on this defense you want to lose a guy.
No, you're exactly right. And he was having a heck of a off season, a heck of a training camp. They really valued him at that 3 technique at the defensive tackle spot. It's a dislocated elbow. The prognosis is 4 to 6 weeks. The good thing is it didn't look like they were going to have to do surgery. So if it's at the short end of 4 to 6, if it's 4, he would be ready right around the season openers if you consider it's already been a week. If it's on the long end, then they got a tough decision to make because do you keep him on the 53 and just say, well, maybe the game 2 or game 3 he'll be ready, or do they put him on the 53 and then the next day put him on returnable injured reserve, and he would have to miss the first 3 games? So I think that'll depend on where they think the injury is. At this point, 3rd round draft choice Osa Odigizua has stepped into his spot. And again, he's looked okay, but he's a rookie. And that's a pretty good offense you're going to have to start the season off against. They have some other guys that they can move in there. Justin Hamilton. If nickel, if they get Terrell Basham back, the defensive end, he's got some inside pass rush ability on the nickel. And then Dan Quinn today was talking about, if they're going to take a hard look on their 7th round or 6th round pick, Quentin Bohanna, at the 1 technique, and then maybe Carlos Watkins can move over to the 3 technique. So yeah, they're going to try to patch that up. That's one of the injuries that really bothers you about the defense. And frankly, when we were talking about the defense, they got to improve against the run. And to improve against the run, you would like to see better play up front in that front 4.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more demoralizing. Yeah, a guy can go out there and just toss it around like it's 7-on-7 and make you look silly, put up big numbers. But is there anything worse than a team that just guts you with the running game?
No, absolutely not. And to steal a line from Rod Marinelli, if you don't stop the run, you don't earn the right to rush the quarterback. And if they're running on you, then your pass rush kind of gets limited because you're so worried about stopping the run. But yeah, and that's 31st against the run last year, David. They gave up 5 yards a carry. 5. My University of Math tells me it only takes 2 carries to get a first down, right? If you're hitting your average. I mean, goodness gracious. It was the second most rushing yards they'd given up in team history. So that's got to improve. And it's hard to judge it in training camp because you're really not putting guys on the ground. Preseason games, it's who's playing who, what are teams working on against you? Are you using all your guys? Because like the last game, there was no DeMarcus Lawrence, no Randy Gregory, no Terrell Basham. So yeah, it's hard to judge, and we're not going to find out until the Cowboys go up against a really good offense, by the way, in that season opener.
All right, Mickey, the Cowboys, had more draft picks this year than they had in quite some time. We know that all of them aren't going to make the team. What would you say of the 11? Do you think 8 of these guys make it, or do you think it's less than that?
Oh, boy. Count off the top of my head. Well, it's hard to determine on Chauncey Golston. He's been out. They had to put him on PUP to start the season. And he hasn't been on the field yet. So hard to know what's going to happen with him. Of the first 1, 2, 5, I think 4 of them make it, and we'll see what happens with Golston. I think Bohanna makes it. So that's 6. And then after that, it's kind of hard. 8 would be great if you can get 8 out of 11. 7 would be good. But again, a lot of these guys that make it may not have a big impact on the game. I left out Jabril Cox. He's going to make it. So you can add one more. So yeah, maybe you're around 8, but we're not talking 8 starters here.
No, we're talking 1, maybe 2.
We may be 1 starter if Odigizua, takes over that tackle spot. I don't think Kelvin Joseph is ready to start. Wright's not ready to start. Cox is not ready to start. Simi Fehoko, who's challenging to be either the 5th receiver or force them to keep 6, certainly isn't going to start. But it gives them some depth. And as Mike McCarthy likes to say, you need the young guys. You need a lot of people. And he always points out that the year the Packers won the Super Bowl, he ended up playing 77 guys on the roster.
Wait a minute, 77?
Yeah, eventually, right?
Well,
yeah. You only got a 53-man roster,
but
it
cheating.
took 70.
Yeah, that's cheating.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's
It
cheating.
took 77 of them to get through a season. So when you look at the guys that go on the practice squad, you go, well, they're only practice squatters. Well, you never know when you need to use those guys because they've at least been in your system instead of bringing in somebody from outside.
This might be a question that doesn't make sense, but what is more important as being a other than backup quarterback? What is more important as a backup in the NFL? That you're a backup or that you're good on special teams?
Well, I hate to take the easy way out, but both. Because a lot of times you earn the right to be the backup if you're good on special teams.
Yeah, that's true. That could be a difference maker, yeah.
Right, exactly. And let me give you an example. So they lost the fullback from TCU, Shewu Olanolua. Well, the only other fullback on the team right now is Nick Ralston, by the way, played his high school ball in Argyle. He really showed up in this last preseason game against Arizona on special teams, made a couple tackles. So is he going to make it because he's a real good fullback, or does the special teams ability, if he continues to do that, by the way, give him an opportunity to earn a backup spot or earn the fullback spot that they don't necessarily have to have, right? You can keep 4 tight ends and use one as an H-back as a lead blocker in short yardage situation, or you can use one of those big old defensive linemen to plow into the hole as a fullback. But his fate's going to be decided by special teams. Probably the same thing maybe for Simi Fehoko. If you're the fifth wide receiver, you better be able to play special teams if you're going to be active on game day. You know, it's the same thing with the tight ends, the second and third tight end. They got to be able to play special teams too. So, yeah, I think they go hand in hand. But a lot of times, if you can show up on special teams, you might earn a backup spot.
Mickey, should we be excited at all about Maurice Canady, or is this like a training camp all-star here?
You know what? He's been in the league. Mm-hmm. I believe this is he opted out last year. So I'm thinking this has got to be like his fourth or fifth year in the league, and it's his fifth year. So it's kind of funny because somebody asked Mike McCarthy, were you surprised about Maurice Canady and how well he's played in training camp and in preseason games? And he goes, yeah, I really was. Well, he meant that because he didn't get a chance to see him last year because he opted out, right? So they asked Canady about it the other day about, hey, the head coach said he was surprised at how good you played. And he goes, yeah, you hate to hear that, right? Just because I shouldn't be a surprise. This is my first 50 year in the league. But I think right now he's the fourth corner. And, he can play a little special teams. And Dan Quinn, when we asked him, can he play outside? Because we haven't seen him other than playing in the slot. And Quinn's answer today was stay tuned. So I think, you can't just be a slot corner. If you're going to be a backup, you better be able to play one of the outside spots. So who knows? Maybe Saturday night we see him outside. But, yeah, I think he's been one of the pleasant surprises for them in training camp.
Mickey, we hear a lot about wide receivers, who's the one, who's the two, and I know there's a lot about what CeeDee Lamb might end up being and where Amari Cooper is, and there's a question about that on the chat from Nick, but does it really matter who's the one or two? I mean, if you could play 3 or 4 wide receivers at one point in a set, but does it matter as long as you just have 3 or 4 good ones?
No, I don't think so, especially these 3, because I think any one of them, you could say, well, that's my number one wide receiver, right? And it still wasn't far-fetched last year for 3 guys to end up with 1,000 yards. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb showed that he's capable of that. Michael Gallup has showed that, and last year, Amari Cooper had 1,000 yards. Everybody wants to sell Amari Cooper short. He had 92 catches last year. Mm-hmm. And if he stays healthy, and they all stay healthy, that's a pretty formidable top 3 in your wide receiver core. So, no, and here's the good thing about that 1, 2, and 3 stuff. And Kellen Moore kind of said it today in his interview. This is the most unlike wide receiver room I've ever seen because they're very humble. No one thinks they're a prima donna, and they're ready to help each other out and share the ball. And so you couldn't ask for anything more than that. And Amari, very quietly, is kind of the leader. He's got a little different personality, but he thinks he helps that room so much with his experience and can answer the questions for the young guys, and especially CeeDee Lamb. So yeah, and then if you throw in Cedric Wilson as the 4th, he's pretty good. That can fill in case of an injury. So yeah, it's a pretty good receiving core. They just got to make sure this year, or hope, I guess. I don't know if you can make sure that offensive line remains intact to be able to not only help Dak out, but help Ezekiel Elliott out too.
I got some questions, if you don't mind, the chat room. This is from DeCoven Bowens about Zeke. The running back position, Father Time probably affects that position possibly more than anything else. Plus, it's such a physical game. There are only so many Walter Paytons and Emmitt Smiths that could play forever, and Frank Gore, of course, is amazing as well. Zeke is still young. He's in great shape again. It looks like he's in great shape. Can he be, again, a top 5 type running back? I know that the game can pass you by. You can still be good, but be 8th. But can he be an elite running back again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still think he's an elite running back. And think about this, and you talk about age. And so there's age, there's carries, and then years in the league, right? He's only 25. That should be prime age for a running back. Now, he's had a lot of carries. You're not going to see him in the preseason games because they understand his load. But I think when you look back to last year, when you evaluate Ezekiel Elliott's season, which, by the way, and I know 1,000-yard season, not what it used to be, but he was only about 40 yards short, right, with an offensive line that at times was atrocious at the tackle position. And I think we fell this short, too. We weren't very in tune with what COVID does to people after you recover, right? Are you a long hauler? Because if you remember, it was, May, June that he tested positive for COVID-19. So I don't know if that had an effect on him. I have no idea, and we probably will never know. But I certainly can tell you, not having your 2 Pro Bowl type offensive tackles on the field certainly affected him. And it certainly affected him when Dak Prescott went out because, and I think I've said this before to you guys, if you're a defensive coordinator and you were going up against the Cowboys, offensively, who are you worried about?
Yep.
Were you worried about the quarterback, or you're saying, 21's not beating me? So there was a lot of things going against him. Now, I can't qualify losing the ball the way he did early in the season, and that was unlike him. But some of that, to me, was him saying, well, I got 2 yards, but I better get 5, and maybe trying too hard and got careless. But if you've seen the clips of him on Hard Knocks and the way he's running, you would answer your question that he's still in the prime of his career.
Yeah, that fumble thing just happens. I mean, some guys have had problems with it throughout their career. Adrian Peterson, as great as he is, Hall of Famer, had struggles with that as well. Mickey, thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
Good to be with you guys. Can't wait for another preseason game.
Absolutely. That's Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. By the way,